Hello and welcome to the first episode of the East of First podcast. I am Isaac Ambrose. Thank you for tuning in. And here we are. This is another Illinois podcast. Probably what you're thinking. The last thing we need is another podcast. So here we go. Hopefully this one is entertaining and able to fill the Illini sports void right now, as it is the summer. I know it's the dead period, but if you're like me, you go to work and listen to these podcasts, and then about halfway through Monday, you are like, dang, I don't know what I'm supposed to do the rest of the week. This is for you. And East of First actually comes from, it's in the name, so east of the First Street in Champaign, where Memorial Stadium and State Farm Center are located, just east of First Street. And also, after talking about it with Carp, it's kind of a double meaning because Illinois seems to always be east of First. They're never in First. We are either east, south, north, west, whatever other direction you can be in besides in first place. There's my pity Illinois name, but really I just thought about First Street and thought, okay, it's kind of unique that on a college campus just east of First Street, you have your two main revenue sports stadiums. And this is just kind of going to be a branch off of the 200 level Carps podcast. And I would just like to talk Illini sports talk and maybe some sports betting on the side. But yeah, just Illinois sports. And if you're like me again, like I was saying, you just like to listen to Illinois sports content, then here you go. I'm really appreciative. I was talking about it with Carp, and he gave me the go-ahead and thought this would be a great idea just to, get back on the mic and possibly fill a void that there might be in that Illini media world right now, especially this summer. And yes, I'm hoping you enjoy, and I can't wait for the live podcast to get back with the 200 level. And that was always a great time all season, especially this season with the success that we had. Basketball-wise, football was not as entertaining, but a lot better outlook coming this fall, I'd say fall of 2021 with Brett Bielema and the crew. If you've listened to the 200 level, you might not recognize my name, but I am the guy who constantly just says, let's go, in a very ecstatic voice. Sometimes when you're watching the games and you almost forget that you are recording a live podcast, and it's just your natural reaction to let out a big let's go. So that's me if you have listened to the 200 level before. If not, I'm just a huge Illinois fan and here to hopefully fill some of that Illini sports talk gap. First of all, not much has happened recently in the basketball world. The coaching search, we are a couple months into it, really, since we've known that Chin and Antigua were gone well before they actually announced. And not much has happened. I mean, you got Chester right off the bat, and now Jeff Alexander's filled one of those spots. You're just waiting for the third coach to come into place, and it's hard to really tell if that is more Brad just taking his time or Brad's out golfing. He was out in Las Vegas on a golf trip. Can't blame him. I'm a huge golfer myself. And again, it's hard to tell if that's more of a Brad's just taking his time, the Josh Whitman's just taking his time, or if they are struggling to find somebody to come here, which doesn't completely make sense to me. I would go with the option that they're just taking their time, because Champaign has to be one of the most attractive assistant coaching spots, you would think, especially if you're coming from a lower level. Champaign, we had so much success last year, and you have potential to be an assistant on a number one seed from last year with a good amount of talent still coming back. Obviously, you lose the big dogs, Kofi Nayo, Adam Miller, which is it could be a whole nother podcast in itself. And if you're like me, you're very sick of hearing about the name Adam Miller. LSU, enjoy, have fun with what's coming your way, Will Wade. But this season, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I hope to the Lord that you fill that third spot soon, just recruiting wise, and for the players and the team to just build some of that camaraderie. And it's hard to do if you don't know who's going to be coaching. And right now I don't know who's going to be coaching the big guys. I don't think anybody knows. And that is such a key part to college basketball nowadays, is having that big guy that can stretch the floor. And Antigua just made Kofi who he was. And I mean, that's why Payne wanted to come to Champaign. So if you are Omar Payne, you're probably like, what is going on? Is Brad going to teach me what to do? And for recruits, you're not as attracted to Champaign. I saw Sean Phillips was on campus, top 100 guy out of East Michigan, and he needs a big man coach to look forward to and be like, that guy is going to put me in the NBA. That's all these recruits want to hear, is how is this coach going to develop me and put me into the NBA? So that is a major factor when it comes to recruiting. If you don't know who's going to be coaching you, or the current players on the roster, if you don't know who's going to be coaching you. Long story short, the assistant coaching search has made little to no progress, at least on our fan base end, and you hope that in the near future you get that wrapped up. Players are going to be coming back to campus soon. You want to build that team camaraderie. You want the coaching staff to start clicking together. And it seems like a Brad Underwood type move to have a handful of guys in his back pocket. He's been at different levels before, and in the past, just with coaching changes or X's and O changes and player changes, Brad typically does at least an okay job. I know that doesn't sound like I have a ton of belief in him, but the way he was able to change the X's and O's, whether you think that was Gentry or Chin or whatever, Brad's the head of it. He was able to do that. He recruited a lot of guys that were his type of guys and then realized, okay, that might not be working here. And he's just been able to change things around recruiting-wise. You got Io, you got Kofi, you got Adam Miller. Every time it felt like you were losing something, you were able to gain some traction. And he's always kind of been able to have a backup plan. So it sounds like a lot of coaches were interested to come here. They just had reasons to stay home, which you can't really blame them. Now, Kofi officially made it official. Again, another tidbit of information that us Illini fans have known. But Kofi was retweeting that he was gone, and he also posted about his player's trunk. So he's making money off of his memorabilia, which I'm 99.9% sure that makes you ineligible to return if you start making money off of yourself, which is interesting because you're going to be able to do that in the near future. But as the rules stand today, I'm pretty sure since he did that, he is immediately ineligible, which a lot of us saw coming. I mean, the fact that Kofi stayed for an extra year was very helpful. And yeah, he could have come back and possibly been one of the... He possibly could have been the National Player of the Year, definitely the Big Ten Player of the Year. But if all of your friends and all of your teammates are leaving and you find yourself saying, you know, who's still going to be here, I can totally understand that. And again, Kofi's old, and I know we've talked about this for a long, long time since he declared, and he needs to go. I don't blame him at all for going, but now it's official. So now if you're recruiting or if you have Omar Payne, those types of guys, they know what their role is going to be this season, or recruiting-wise what their role can be, because Kofi's gone. And a guy like Sean Phillips, who you recently recruited, you have a lot more ammo to say, hey, look what Kofi did. We got him in and out of here in 2 years, and he's more than likely going to at least be, in the G League or something next year. And before Kofi got to Champaign, he was so raw. So very proud of him. Happy for him. Thanks, Coach O, because they were just a dynamic duo, coaching-player duo in Champaign the past couple years. 2021 outlook. I was talking to a couple buddies today asking me how I think this season can go, and the negative, sulky Illini fan in me wants to immediately say, well, everybody's pretty much gone. That means we're back to bottom half of the Big Ten. But if you look at it on paper and look at it more realistically, I think at least you're a bubble team, and at best you're probably a 5 or a 6 seed. That might be a little high, but for some reason I have more faith in a team like this with Brad Underwood's guys, where good coaches are able to make good situations out of players that might not have as much talent. I mean, you look at Tom Izzo's teams. His best teams have been when his players weren't as talented, but they just played pure good basketball, and they just developed skills, and they got coached, and they grew from their freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. And I think that could potentially be more like our team this year. Even our recruits, Luke Goody, Melendez, Podzimski, they're great, top 100 recruits, but none of them are 5-stars that are going to be in the NBA next year. None of them are Ios. None of them are Adam Millers. None of them are even Kofis. So I really don't expect a ton from the freshmen this year, but they might play some interesting minutes. And if Brad's able to fill in those spots with different guys on the team and use what you have in the leadership of DeMonte Williams and Trent Frazier and hopefully Andre Curbelo, I mean, you're looking at a solid squad this upcoming year, and I see you, again, at worst, a bubble team, at best, a 5 or 6 seed. I think Big Ten's going to be pretty good again. I mean, Maryland's going to be good. Purdue's going to be good. Michigan's going to be good. Those are all, Indiana's going to be really good. Those are all opportunities you're going to have to get those quad one type wins, and fans are going to be back. So the Big Ten will be roaring. You're going to have State Farm Center sold out, and I can almost guarantee you'll get a quad one win against one of those top teams at home because State Farm Center is going to be loud. Fans are just itching to get back, especially in Champaign. I know most of you were like me, and this past fall was just painful. The team was so good, we weren't able to go see them in person. And it's going to be a great season. I do still think Brad is the guy that's going to be here for a while, and this year's going to be a lot different. We sort of had an interesting roller coaster journey because we obviously went from no tournament since 2013 to we would have made the tournament when it got canceled last year. Then we make a 1 seed, and now we might be right back to the bubble. So it wasn't really a typical growth pattern from 6 seed to 4 seed to 1 seed, possibly back down to a 3 seed, maybe back up to a 1 seed. It really was a complete up and down from not making the tournament to the weird COVID year to the 1 seed to possibly being back on the bubble, which is just very unique. But hey, Illinois fans, I think we're used to interesting, unique situations, especially with basketball. But the projected starters in my mind, if I'm just going based off of who I would put out there game 1 coming up in November, obviously Trent, Curbelo, DeMonte, Grandison. And then depending on how Payne does, I'll take that back. I think as it stands right now, Payne has to be your starting 5 just simply because of his size and his defensive ability. Unless for some reason Coleman Hawkins is blowing this coaching staff and everything out of the water. But still, you're going to have that small 5 in Coleman Hawkins. So you're either going to need to run small ball and figure out how to go back to that stuff, or you're going to need Payne to start and play big minutes, and then Coleman Hawkins sub in at the 4 and maybe even the 5 if you have to. Because Brandon Lieb's not going to be able to do that. You lost Jermaine Hamlin, which isn't that big of a loss. Happy for him to be staying in state at Eastern. And yeah, so there you go. You got Curbelo obviously at the 1. He can make so many things happen. Trent at the 2. DeMonte at the 3. Grandison at the 4. And then Payne at the 5. And hopefully you get some minutes there from Goody, Podziemski, Coleman Hawkins. And you just need to put minutes here and there. And Alfonso Plummer, that's huge too. If he can play solid minutes, you might swap him in for DeMonte at the 3 and just play really small ball. DeMonte did a good job coming off the bench there at the end of the year, but just his defense and his length, you might need to keep him out there when you have Trent, when you have Curbelo, just because you're going to need some size on the court at that point in the game. Looks like a lot of local recruits for basketball. I mean, the kid out of St. Joe, Ty Pence, that would be pretty good get. And I don't know if you're like me, I do love recruiting. I keep up with it, but I only spend so much time fretting over a kid who probably won't come here for another few years. It's cool to think about, a local kid from St. Joe coming to the U of I, being a great player. And then you have the Owen Freeman from Bradley Bourbonnais, just an hour north or so. And that would be very cool. They seem to know each other. And you want local guys like that. We talk a lot about Chicago, obviously, all the time, and how we're going after Chicago guys. But why not go after guys, below I-80 at the Bradley Bourbonnais, the St. Joe? And I know, obviously, there haven't been that many players in the Champaign vicinity recently worth recruiting. So it'll be cool. You were, in on them early, and hopefully they appreciate that and make the IO-like commitment and want to stay home. That's always been interesting for me, too, because I'm trying to think if high school me, if 16, 17-year-old me was offered a big-time gig to go out to Duke or Kansas or North Carolina or Florida, UCLA, just all over the country, unless you were a complete diehard and loved your hometown and state, it would be hard to say no to all that beautiful weather and travel and being treated like you're the second coming of Jesus, And yeah, hopefully they do stay home, and hopefully we're able to lock up another Chicago kid here in the near future to keep Chicago, keep our ties in Chicago, even though I know that has been also an interesting roller coaster. Transitioning into football, really excited for Bielema this fall. I love the recruiting and the momentum there. Seems like we're getting a ton of kids on campus, and that's going really well. A lot of in-state kids too, which I know the past regime was not big about, and I don't even need to talk about it because we've dogged on Lovey enough, but I do think Bielema's got it figured out, and he knew how to win at Wisconsin. Things might be a little bit different now. The culture and teenagers are maybe a little bit different now than when he was last in the Midwest, but unless he's just a great car salesman and putting on a big show, he's doing all the right things, saying all the right things, and he knows in-state kids are a lot of times the kids that fuel a program. And I know a lot of these recruits he's bringing in are 3 stars, but 3 stars a lot of times are, again, what fuel the program and make you go places. At Wisconsin, how many 3 stars did he develop and send to the NFL, especially on the offensive line? And Wisconsin's had so many pros just since the 2010s and since he was there, and the ability to breed a kid like that. A lot of times 3 stars are kids who they put in the work, they just really love football, but they might not be as off the charts talented as the 5-stars. They're not running 4.3 40s. They're not jumping 40 inches in the vertical. They're just great football players, and they're tough kids, and they want to play football wherever they can. So if you're able to take that and develop it into a true Division I college football player, then you're cooking. And I think Brett's going to be able to do that. Also, one thing I wanted to touch on, Isaiah Williams, big time, transitioning over to wide receiver. I am really excited about that. We haven't, seen it a whole lot, but sounds like the rumors are it's been a great transition, and props to him for being able to, just accept the tough situation and move into the wide receiver role. Almost reminds me, could potentially be like an Antonio Brown, and I know Antonio Brown is one of the best slot receivers to ever play football, but Antonio Brown's only 5'10" with cleats on. He's probably 5'8", 5'9". You got an Isaiah Williams, another shorter guy, able to make people miss. And the thing about Isaiah, too, that I love is he has that it factor that you can't teach. He just has it. He's able to make people miss. We saw it last year a little bit. We've seen it a little bit in his time at Illinois, just making people miss, able to accelerate, got great vision for the field, and this change of position might just be what he needs to really be able to contribute on a Division I level in the Big Ten. Another guy he almost reminds me of would be Julian Edelman, who, smaller guy, plays a slot, obviously a lot of his success in the NFL, played quarterback in college, and I'm sure that's helped him just to be able to understand the position more. And if he's able to get open for Brandon Peters because he knows a route or he knows where the safety might be looking, then yeah, I think that's going to help a ton. So definitely getting positive vibes from that, and really excited to see how Isaiah does this fall. Now, football season outlook. Part of me wants to get really excited and think this is easily a bowl team. But if I step back, look at the roster, look at what you did last year, I'm going to have to say 5-7 sounds more realistic. You have some tough games, some tough road games, and there's just a lot of coin flip games that typically in the past have not gone your way. So maybe Bielema is the difference maker, and all these seniors coming back are what push you in that right direction. But 5-7 sounds more like it. I would be surprised if they only win 4, and I would be ecstatic if they win 6 or possibly even more. But this feels more like a transition year where Bielema gets those 5 wins, and then next year you're pushing for 7, hopefully 8, and recruits start to pick up, and you really feel the next step of Illini football. It's going to be a great fall, I think, on both sides of Kirby. You got Memorial Stadium, you got State Farm Center. Fans are finally going to be back. Fans are going to be excited with the renewal of the football program with Brett Bielema and the finally accomplished Illinois basketball team getting to see the Big Ten Tournament Championship banner, and Io getting his jersey in the rafters, and Kofi too. So it's gonna be a good fall. Quarterback wise, though, I love Brandon Peters. He seems to put in a great effort, and you just wonder when it's time for a quarterback to move on or not. I think it's a good transition for this Illini team, and hey, I hope Brandon has some great year and he's able to make a roster next fall on Sundays. It's good to have a guy who's been there, worked with multiple coaches, being at Michigan too, especially when your wide receiver core, you don't really know what the heck you're going to expect. So good, you got a veteran, you got the Art Sitkowski guy too, I guess, backing up, and Matt Robinson. Karan Taylor, I believe, still. So quarterback's going to be an interesting position this fall. A little bit disappointing last year, but have more hope working with this new coaching staff. And also Mike Epstein, sounds like he's coming back. Hopefully he can stay healthy, because he was, the past few years, he's been your best overall running back. He just can't stay healthy. And you've had some great running backs here at Illinois the past few years, so that is also it's a great addition. Your running back room is going to be great next year. And offensively, defensively, you're pretty sound, bringing back a good amount of these super seniors. It's been great sort of introducing this new podcast that I hope to do at least once a week or so and just fill that void of Illinois sports talk in the summer when it's going to be a little slower. And again, thanks to Carp for just giving me this opportunity to be on a microphone and be a part of the 200 level. And hopefully you enjoyed this. We'll get a little bit more Illinois next week and sports betting. So if that's your gig, tune back in next week. And thanks again. This is East of First with Isaac Ambrose.